Okay. I always feel that Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur never get enough Torah time. Unlike Pesach and Sukkot, basically you have Bein Hazmanim, you have a whole month, you have 8 days. Somehow other Rosh Hashanah, you don't really have time to learn anything about it. On Rosh Hashanah stuff you're not learning, and before that you're learning about Mitzvah. I felt it would only be proper if we give a shir or two about Rosh Hashanah and Aseret Yemei Tshuva. So, the Gemara famously says in Brachos that Kol Shana Kula Adas Bala Akel Kadosh Melech Oyev Tokum Mishpat, that all year in the third bracha we say Akel Kadosh, and we say later on we say Melech Oyev Tokum Mishpat. But on Aseret Yomim Shemer Shana Yom Kippur, we actually say HaMelech HaKadosh and HaMelech HaMishpat, right? And the Gemara brings a whole machlokes about that. Is that so? Is it not so? But the bottom line, the Gemara comes out, machlokes is Rabbi and Rabbi Lozer. We pass like Rabbi that yes, indeed, we do say in At the Kodesh, the third bracha, we say HaMelech HaKadosh. And in Hashiv Shavteinu, we say HaMelech HaMishpat. Okay, but the Gemara actually does not say openly, let's say you mistakenly do not say it. Meaning, there is a machlokes in Gemara whether you need to say it at all. Rabbi Lozer says you don't got to say it at all. He says Kel HaKadosh is just fine even doing Aseret Yemei Tshuva. And that we pass like Rabba. No, you should say HaMelech HaKadosh and you should say HaMelech HaMishpat. But whether or not it is a requisite, meaning it's ma'akiv, meaning it's a must, and if you don't do it, you have to daven again, that there's actually no open Gemara about. And this is a major machlokes rishonim, whether if you by accident said Akel HaKadosh, and after you daven, you're like, oh, I realized I said the wrong thing, do you have to go back or not? So we all know that we paskin in the Shulchan Aruch, based on Tosfos, that yes, not only do you have to say HaMelech HaKadosh, if you by accidentally do not say it, you have to daven the whole entire prayer again. And even if you're not sure if you said it, HaMelech HaKadosh, we could assume that you did not say it. Because since all year you say Akel HaKadosh, there's no reason, if you're in doubt, if you're not sure, there's no reason for us to assume that you did say HaMelech HaKadosh. On Rosh Hashanah itself, there's a whole machlokes, since you usually have a machzor in front of you, and if let's say you wake up after you daven Rosh Hashanah Shmoneh Esrei, and oh my God, so they say Akel HaKadosh or HaMelech HaKadosh. So paskin, if we knew everything else he said, like the Rosh Hashanah Shmoneh Esrei, which is Tein Pachtecha, which is a whole different type of nusach, a whole different type of language, we could assume you did say HaMelech HaKadosh, because everything else he said different. So you probably got it right. Be it as it may, Aseret Yemei Tshuva, you pass in the Shulchan Aruch, if you don't say HaMelech HaKadosh, you got to daven again. About Melech Oyev Tokum Mishpat, in principle, you would have to daven again. That's what the Gemara says, that's what Shulchan Aruch says. But because in the bracha that we usually say, it incorporates Melech, which was not in the times of the Chazal. There were different nuschos. In times of Chazal, it seems, I'm not sure what the Sfardim say. I don't know if the Sfardim say Melech Oyev Tokum Mishpat. It could be they don't say Melech Oyev Tokum. I'm not sure what they say. But the Ashkenazim that say Melech Oyev Tokum Mishpat, since you mentioned Melech, it's okay. It's not good, but it's okay. But clearly, at least by Akel HaKadosh, if you say Akel HaKadosh instead of HaMelech HaKadosh, you're up the creek and you have to daven again. Oh. But like I said, this is a major machlokes rishonim. Now, the other rishonim who say you don't have to, the Mordechai, the Rav Yah, many rishonim, they bring up Gemara that seems to say not like Tosfos, not like the Halacha. Because the Gemara is talking here in Shabbos, same as Gemara. The Gemara wants to know, when, if you missed out a supplement, when do you have to go back? When do you have to pray again? So the Gemara says like this. a day that there's a carbon musaf, if you missed a supplement, you got to go back. You got to pray again. If it's a day that there is no carbon musaf, and you miss out the supplement, you miss out the addition, you don't got to go back. So what are the Gemara talking about here? For example, we make supplements on Rosh Chodesh, right? Rosh Chodesh we add Yalav Yavod. On Chanukah we add Alanisim. Purim we add Alanisim. On Tainus we add Anenu, right? The Gemara talks here different type of Tanesim. So we have all these different type of additions. When do we go back and when do we not go back if you forget it? The Gemara says, here's the rule. Here's the cardinal rule. If there's a day of a musaf, i.e. Rosh Chodesh, Chol Hamoed where we daven a regular davening on Shachris. We don't have any special davening. It's a davening the weekday. But if on Rosh Chodesh and Yalavi Yavoy, it's Rosh Chodesh and Chol Hamoed, you miss out Yalavi Yavoy, you got to daven again. Why? Because those days, it's such a special day that we see there's a carbon musaf that shows that the additions are an integral part of that day. So you better say the additions when you pray, when you daven. But Alanisim on Chanukah, or Alanisim on Purim, or Anenu by Tainus. On Tainus we don't have a musaf. On Chanukah we don't have a musaf. On Purim we don't have a musaf. So those additions, we see that day is not such an important day per se. So if you miss out the addition, it's okay. That's the rule. If there's a musaf, you better save the supplement. And if you mess up, you got to pray again. If there's no musaf, you don't got to pray again. Oh. So all the Rishonim say, I don't understand. How could you Taisa say if you miss out Hamelech HaMishpat, or if you miss out Hamelech HaKadosh, that you got to pray again on the Seret Simei Tshuva? Doing the Seret Simei Tshuva between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Is there a carbon musaf? No. And even though in Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur there is a carbon musaf, but the additions clearly have nothing to do with Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur per se, because you say it all 10 days. So the addition of a Melech HaMishpat and the addition of a Melech HaKadosh have nothing to do with the carbon musaf, because we say it all Aseret Simei Tshuva. So seemingly based on the rules that are set out in the Gemara Shabbos, and we know those are the rules, we know that. Al-Nisim we don't go back for, Yalav Yavah we do go back for. So when there's a day of musaf, you do have to pray again. And if there's no day of musaf, you do not have to pray. You do not have to pray again. So why in the world do you go back for Hamelech HaMishpat and for Hamelech HaKadosh? This is not my question. This is all the Rishonim question. This is Yonatan is ahead of the game. So the obvious answer to this question is like this. There are two types of supplements that or additives or additions that we put into the Shemoneh Esrei. One of them is called Haskara Ba'alma, which means something like superimposed and like something that's extraneous, something it's said in the Shemoneh Esrei, but it's clearly not an integral part of the Shemoneh Esrei. It's like something added on to it. And then there are some additions that, even though it's an addition per se, it's not considered. It's called Matbeya Shetocham. It's called an integral part of the Shemoneh Esrei. Right? So again, there are two types of supplements. One of them is just called a extra credit type of supplement, and one of them is called Haskar Ba'alma, meaning Haskar means a remembrance, some type of to memorialize something, and then there is Matbeya Shetovu Chacham. So let's think about it. What would you think? This is Jonathan's question. Wait a minute. Mashiv Ruach Goshim and Saint Talamater. If you don't say those things, basically you go back. You got to pray again. If you don't say we don't say Mashiv Ruach Goshim all year. We say 6 months basically. It's an addition, right? It's a supplement. If you don't say Saint Talamater, basically you have to daven again, basically, right? I don't understand. What happened to the rules? Those have nothing to do with Musaf. We said a supplement that only that has to do with Musaf, that's connected to a carbon Musaf, or the date of the day a carbon Musaf, then you have to go back again. Master Ruach HaMaydagashem was all 6-7 months. There's no Musaf for 6-7 months. I'll say Talamater. Oh, so Yonason hit on the answer. You're conflating issues. Something that is a matbeya shetovu chacham, something that we considered an integral part of the Shemoneh Esrei, even though it was added into it. But if it takes on the facade, it takes on the rubric of matbeya shetovu chachamim, there it doesn't make a difference. Musaf, not Musaf. Oh. What is the Gemara in Shabbos talking about? It's talking about Haskaras Ba'alma. It's talking about added material to the Shemoneh Esrei that is clearly extra credit, external. That's called Haskaras Ba'alma. What is it talking about in Gemara Shabbos? Al Anisim, Yalav Yavai, Anenu. So, how do you decide whether something is considered Haskara Ba'alma, something is considered just like an external superimposed addition, but it's not integral? And how would you decide that even though it's an addition, but it takes on the role of being an internal part, an integral part of the Shemoneh Esrei? That's called Matpei Sh'Tavacham. So what do you think? It's hard to quantify. Oh, but the answer is simple. Look at Yalav Yavai. Just look at it. It's a whole paragraph. It sort of starts off its own. Elokeinu Elokeinu is saying Yalav Yavai. It's just like put in middle. It's like a separate unit almost. It's like a separate unit. It's not really part of the flow of the Shemoneh Esrei. We sort of just like superimpose it into there. Look at Al Hanisim. Well, how does Al Hanisim look like? Like an added paragraph. It just is like put into the Shemoneh Esrei. Like some type of secondary or tangential part. It's not part of the integral. First of all, by the length of it, and by the positioning, the wording, right? More so, all of these, Yalav Yavai, Al Anisim, Anenu, are all related to a specific time in the year. Very specific time. Very small amount of time. Right? It's about a spiritual time of the year. All this lends itself that it should be considered a Haskara Ba'alma. Again, an external superimposed addition. What about Master Ruach HaMaydagashem? First of all, we don't say that for we say that for a long time, 6 months. And look at the positioning of it. It's not like a separate unit. It's right there. It's right there. Right? Machai Mesamata, Rav Lashia, Master Ruach HaMaydagashem. It's like a flow. Right? So based on, and what is the reason why we're saying Master Ruach HaMaydagashem or saying Talamater? We need rain. We need rain for a long time. It's not some type of to memorialize a certain day, a certain holiday, a certain concept like when a tainus. So clearly, even though this is an addition, Master Ruach HaMaydagashem and Moed Tol is an addition. Master Ruach HaMaydagashem and Tzei Talamater are an addition, but clearly it's an addition that takes on, when it is added for 6-7 months, it is not considered like something superimposed or extraneous. It's considered part of the liturgy. It's considered clearly part of the davening. So there we don't care if it's a Musaf, a day of Musaf or not day of Musaf. That's an integral part of the davening, right? This is 101. This is famous Torah. It's not my Torah. Famous Torah. There are two groupings of additions. One is called Haskara Ba'alma. One is called Matpei Sh'Tavacham. And I think it's pretty clear why Master Ruach HaMaydagashem would be considered Matpei Sh'Tavacham. Matpei means a coin, the coinage, the language that's an integral part. And why Yalav Yavai and Al Anisim and Al Anenu would be considered, right? Anenu B'Yom Tanasenu would be considered a superimposed extra credit type of addition. Oh, and there we only care by Haskara Ba'alma. There we care for the day of Musaf. Oh, so here's the $1 million question: what would you say is HaMelech HaKadosh? Would you say HaMelech HaKadosh goes under the grouping of Haskara Ba'alma, something superimposed from the outside, sort of an extra credit thing? or what you consider called it Matbeya Shetovu Chachamim. So it's over here. It's quasi. It's liminal, right? It's something not so clear. On one hand, it's only for 10 days. It definitely has to do with a time of a spiritual time, like Yalav Yavai, like Hanukkah, like Purim, right? So on that way, it sounds like it's just like superimposed, like an external Askar Ba'alma. On the other hand, based on where it's put into the liturgy, not only is it in the middle of a bracha, it is the bracha. All year we say Baruch Atah Hashem Hakel HaKadosh, and now what do we say? HaMelech HaKadosh. I mean, if there's something that's going to be so prominent or something so integral to a liturgy or to the it would be a Melech HaKadosh, which is the bracha that you say. On the other hand, it is based on a time-related issue. Yeah, but on the other hand, it's related about the judgment for the whole entire year. So it has to do with judgment that has a connection to the whole entire year. So it's quasi. It's not so clear. And this is the Machlokes Rishonim. How would we describe or quantify HaMelech HaKadosh? Is it considered like a external addition, or is it considered a integral part of the prayer, even though it's only for 10 days? The Rishonim who evoke the Gemara in Shabbos say, hey, what's going on in here? HaMelech HaKadosh is a nice thing to say, no doubt about that. But it's not a day of Musaf, it's nothing to do with Musaf. So just like Yalav Yavai and Al Anisim and Anenu, we don't care if you mess up, you don't got to daven again. HaMelech HaKadosh should be the same thing, because it's not a day of Musaf. It's not such a day of importance. And because they're learning HaMelech HaKadosh is only called Askar Ba'alma. It's considered an outside, superimposed, extra credit type of addition. But Tosfos and Halacha L'Maisa, which by the way, I think you're right, I would have voted it's the Matbeya Shetovu Chachamim. That's what I would have voted. Because like I said, it's like part of the bracha, it's right there. It replaces the usual bracha. So I would have said, and that's what we passed in Halacha L'Maisa, that HaMelech HaKadosh is considered Matbeya Shetovu Chachamim. Hence, it don't make no difference if it's not a day of Musaf. And if you don't say that Nusach, for those 10 days, that is the integral prayer. And therefore you have to go back. Oh. Where else do we see that this is?
But just like at night for Yalav Yavai, even though the Rosh Chodesh.
We'll get to that's the next part of the shir. I don't know. Maybe you're my ghostwriter. We'll get to that. That's the next part. Tell me when it's exactly 40 minutes, because then I want to. So, where else do we see this concept? Right? We see it. We know that in the on Friday night, for whatever reasons, we say something called Me'ein Sheva. We sort of do like a little Chazaras HaShas, right? Ma'ariv, you usually don't do a Chazaras HaShas. All of a sudden, when it comes to Friday night, right? We say Magay Navoy, Bidoroi, Mechai Meisim, Amaroi. That's called Me'ein Sheva, right? Why is it called Me'ein Sheva? It's a shortened, syncopated. It's a shortened version of the 7 brachas. On Shabbos we say 7 brachas. So it's called Me'ein Sheva. Like what is Al Michi called? Me'ein Shalosh. Because it's a shortened Birkat HaMazon. Why we say that? The reason why we say it was because people used to come late on Friday night and they waited and they were out in the field. And basically we wanted to procrastinate, to give people time, people who came late or were davening slower, that they shouldn't be left out in the field alone. That's what it all boils down to. Just caring about your brother, let him finish davening, you want to go home. No, the Chazal cared about people who davened slow or came late. So that's the whole reason why there was this takana of Me'ein Sheva. So be it as it may, if you notice, in the Me'ein Sheva, even if it's a day of Rosh Chodesh, right, Shabbos before Rosh Chodesh, Happens a lot, right? In the Ein Sheva, we don't mention Yalav V'Yavai. We do not mention Yalav V'Yavai. Or if Shabbos falls out, let's say on Purim, or not Purim, on Chanukah, we don't mention Al Nisan. But we will mention, the Chazan better make sure he mentions, we don't say on the Sefer Tshuva Hakel HaKadosh, we say HaMelech HaKadosh. So what's the rules? It's the same rules. Since Me'ein Sheva is only a shortened version, a bridged version, we don't add any extras. We're not going to talk about Al Nisim, right? We say Al Nisim on Shabbos too. We're not going to say Yalav V'Yavai. We're not going to mention any of that. But something that's an integral part of the prayer that we do mention in the Me'ein Sheva, because there's only so much you can abridge. So here we see that we do mention HaMelech HaKadosh, but we don't mention Yalav V'Yavai. This is again a proof that what? This is a proof once again that HaMelech HaKadosh, even though I told you it's not so simple, you can hear both sides. You can hear both ways. It's not so simple, but the halacha might say that it is considered a matbei shetav chachamim. It is considered an integral part of the davening. Oh, fine. Where else? By the way, the other Rishonim will argue. They hold no. They hold HaMelech HaKadosh. You do not say. They talk about Opri. It's not. They say Opri. You do not say HaMelech HaKadosh. And they say if you forget HaMelech HaKadosh, you do not go back. Because they learn it's just like Yalav V'Yavai. Oh, good. Now.
You would say Hakel HaKadosh?
They say, yeah. It's a hamachoikus in the rabbinical writing. What do we say over here? Yes. And it all lines up. The same people who say that you don't go back if you forgot HaMelech HaKadosh are the same Rishonim that would say that you don't say here HaMelech HaKadosh. Same exact thing. Okay, now. Where else do we find? I just want to bring this to the fore, flesh it out, make it clear to you. We find what is the halakha. I'm going to give you two scenarios. Scenarios like this: it's Rosh Chodesh, the last day of Rosh Chodesh, one day Rosh Chodesh, two days Rosh Chodesh, Mincha Rosh Chodesh, right? And sadly enough, you forgot Yalav V'Yavai. Mincha Rosh Chodesh, you forgot Yalav V'Yavai. So if you remember right away, you got to pray again. But you didn't remember right away. You only remember at nightfall. Do you daven 2 Ma'ariv or not? So you're Mincha Rosh Chodesh, right? You're the first day of Rosh Chodesh. Oh, it comes the second day, the second night. You're already bathed of the Chodesh, and you realize Mincha you didn't say Yalav V'Yavai. Should you daven again? On one hand, you'll say, well, the law is if you don't pray, the next prayer you daven twice. If you miss Shachar, you daven 2 Minchas. You miss Mincha, you daven 2 Ma'ariv. So it comes out when you didn't say Yalav V'Yavai on Mincha Rosh Chodesh, you didn't pray. On the other hand, it's a little ludicrous. It sounds a little strange. So what will I do? I'll pray the next night 2 Ma'ariv. But I won't be saying Rosh Chodesh then. You're definitely not going to say Yalav V'Yavai the night after Rosh Chodesh. So what do? Right? The same question. Mincha Rosh Chodesh, you forgot to pray Yalav V'Yavai. So do you say you pray again Ma'ariv twice? The following day Ma'ariv twice? But then you're not going to say Rosh Chodesh. You're not going to rectify what you did wrong. Oh. Same question. You're supposed to say Saint Talamater. When do you say Saint Talamater? So let's say you're Mincha Erev Shabbos. And you didn't say Saint Talamater. You're supposed to daven again. No question about it. You got to daven again if you don't say Saint Talamater. Right? So what do you do? Oh, daven 2 Ma'ariv of Shabbos. But in Shabbos Ma'ariv you don't say Saint Talamater anyway. Right? On Ma'ariv of Shabbos there is no Saint Talamater. So what would you be gaining to pray twice? It's true. Mincha Erev Shabbos, if you got Saint Talamater, if you could daven Mincha right away, great. You'll rectify what you missed out. You'll make up what you missed. But what would be the point to daven 2 miles again on Shabbos night? So Reb Chaim Mibrisk famously decides like this. In the Rosh Chodesh case, he says, do not daven again. Mincha Rosh Chodesh, and the following day is just a regular day, do not daven again. If you forgot Mincha Rosh Chodesh Ya'av Yavai, and it's ready the next day, do not daven again. No. Oh. But if it's saying Talmud you missed out on Mincha of Erev Shabbos, you do daven again 2 miles of Shabbos. What's the difference? This is Reb Chaim Brisker's dichotomy. This is his this is a distinction. What's the difference? The difference is exactly what we spoke about a minute ago. Is it called, are we dealing with a matbeya shetavu chachamim, or are we dealing with haskara ba'alma? Minch Ya'av Yavai, that we're supposed to say Ya'av Yavai on Rosh Chodesh, the way you look at it is like this. You have the regular prayer, and then you have an additional. And it's very important to say it's additional. And if you didn't say it, you pray again. But it's not considered like you didn't pray at all. Because since it's only an additional, it's only an additive, it's a superimposed or extraneous type of additive. So yes, you're supposed to say it, and you even pray again, because it's a day of Musaf, to get that addition in. But once you messed up, and now you're the next day, you're already the second day of the month. So what's the point to pray twice? It is considered you prayed Mincha Rosh Chodesh. You were just missing a little part. So you're not going to make up that part anyway. So if you learn to haskara ba'alma, so you can't, there's no reason to pray again if you're not going to say haskara ba'alma. So Ma'ariv, of the second day of the Chodesh, it's not Rosh Chodesh anymore, right? So you're not going to be saying Ya'av Yavi anyway. But let's say Mincha Erev Shabbos, you missed out saying Talmud. We said saying Talmud is an integral part of the prayer. If you don't say that, it's not like, oh, you prayed but you missed out something. You davened and you missed out something. No, it's like you didn't daven at all. It's like instead of davening 18 brachas, you daven 14 brachas. You know, it's like you missed something majorly. And if you miss something that's a major league, something integral, it's like you didn't pray at all. So it is true, Mincha, Erev Shabbos, you didn't say Saint Talmud. And you didn't daven again right away. It is true at Friday night, when you're going to pray twice, you're not going to say Saint Talmud. So what are you gaining? Anyway, you're not going to rectify what you missed. But what you're gaining is, it's considered on Mincha, Erev Shabbos, like you didn't pray at all. Because since what you missed out was a matbeya shetavu chachamim, since what you missed out was the most integral part of the prayer, even though it's only for 6 months, it's a supplement. But it is considered matbeya shetavu chachamim, therefore it's like you didn't pray at all, and you got to pray again Ma'ariv of Shabbos, even though you're not going to say Saint Talmud. So I'm just bringing out these famous. This is old Bar Mitzvah Torah, old Torah. There's something called Matbeis Shetavu Chachamim. There's something called Haskara, and I'm showing you that they each have their own rules. And where is the Machlokes? The Machlokes is by HaMelech HaKadosh. What do we look at it as? Is it like a Matbeis Shetavu Chachamim, or is it like a Haskara B'Alma? Oh, now when we get to Rosh Hashanah, it is impossible not to mention the famous Reb Avli Pesavela. Right? Who is Reb Avli Pesavela? He was after the Gra, he was the Av Bezdin. He basically took over the Gra's position. Now, you got to be something like super duper to take over the Gra, even to think about being anything next to the Gra. He was world famous. He wrote thousands of tshuvas. When he was nifter, he left 60 suitcases of Chiddushei Torah. For some reason or other, we have nothing from him. Nothing has remained from any of his writings. I have to put a little bit of albeit, just recently, the Machon Yerushalayim, I was talking about 10 years ago something, They tried to find some of his letters because he wrote thousands of letters. They did compile something. But until basically 10, 15 years ago, nothing from this man. He was a well-known figure. A Gadol Adar Mamash, the Gadol Adar. They're Avli. People don't even know about him. People are like, Avli? Who's Avli? But one thing, and only one thing only, did we have from him. And only because it was quoted by the Chaya Adam. Right? So when Rosh Hashanah comes, we have to mention Rav Avli. He's got to give him his credit. What did the Chaya Adam say in the name of Rav Avli Pasaveler? He brings down a huge chiddush. And this is exactly what you said. You'll see why in a minute. He says that even though we just paskin that HaMelech HaKadosh is paramount, and you must say HaMelech HaKadosh, and if you forget HaMelech HaKadosh, you have to daven the whole thing again. There's one exception to the rule. When is that exception to the rule? The first night of Rosh Hashanah. If the first night of Rosh Hashanah, can you imagine that? You know, it's like the most, I don't know, the holiest time or the most exciting time. If the first night of Rosh Hashanah you forget HaMelech HaKadosh, you say everything. But you know for sure. Like I told you at the beginning of the year, if you're not sure, you could assume you probably said it. But let's say you know 1,000% you did not say HaMelech HaKadosh. He says you don't got to go back. This is so counterintuitive. You figure the first night of Rosh Hashanah, at least get that right. No. What in the world is the reason why he says this? What in the world could be the logic behind this famous Rav Avli? Oh. So, seemingly, the logic is exactly what you said. We know that Ya'aleh V'Yavoy is something that you must say. And if you miss out Ya'aleh V'Yavoy on Rosh Chodesh or Chol HaMoed, you got to daven again. You got to daven again because it's Day of Musaf. But what is the law if you miss out Rosh Chodesh at night? You don't say Ya'aleh V'Yavoy at night. We all know you don't go back. What in the world is the difference between Rosh Chodesh and the day and Rosh Chodesh and the night? So the Gemara says, I'll just say it's a little bit enigmatic. The Gemara says, Ein mekatchen rak b'yoyim. Since the Kiddush HaChodesh in times of yore, when did the Bezdin do the Kiddush HaChodesh? In the day. You cannot do it at night. Even if Eidim came at night, the Bezdin could not convene, could not get together until the day. So Rosh Chodesh was always in time of yore, before the calendar was set. But we always base our behavior on what should be. So since in time of yore, the way Rosh Chodesh happened, it always was identified, or always was established during the day. So therefore, if you don't say Ya'aleh V'Yavoy at night, it's okay. That's the Gemara. So it says Rav Avli the same thing. What is Rosh Hashanah? What is Rosh Hashanah? Rosh Hashanah is just a emboldened or an enlarged Rosh Chodesh. Really, all Rosh Hashanah is Rosh Chodesh. Except this Rosh Chodesh is the Rosh Chodesh of Tishrei. Right? So, just like we say, you don't got to say Ya'aleh V'Yavoy at night if you miss it. You have to say it. But if you miss it, it's not a big deal because Rosh Chodesh is usually established in the day. So basically Rosh Hashanah is also established when? Only the next day. Because Rosh Chodesh and Rosh Hashanah are really one and the same. So hence, says Rav Avli, if you miss HaMelech HaKadosh at night, you're good to go. Amazing. Amazing Kiddush of Rav Avli. Oh. Now, on this, we have many Achronim asking all different types of questions. They attack him vehemently, but from all different angles. And if we have like 2 hours, I would go through all the different angles of how they attack him and why they disagree. The Mishnah Brura, the Beis Halevi, everyone is going to town. But before we attack him, it seems like, what do you think, makes sense? Bottom line is, that's right. Rosh Hashanah, Rosh Chodesh, the same exact thing. So just like if you don't say Ya'aleh V'Yavoy at night on Rosh Chodesh, it should be the same thing if you don't say Melech HaKadosh. I know how strange that it may sound, it makes a lot of sense. Oh. So like I said, there are a bunch of reasons that the Achronim are not happy with this Rav Avli. But one of the main reasons is seemingly the Rabbeinu Yoina, who lived a couple 100 years before, Rabbi Avli, seem to have addressed the same issue. Rabbi Yonah is talking like this. Rabbi Yonah says like this. Let's say on Pesach or Shabbos, Pesach night or Shabbos night or Sukkot night, let's say by accident you daven a weekday davening. Says Rabbi Yonah, of course you got to pray again. No question about it. If you daven Pesach night a weekday davening, I'm talking about Pesach proper, not Chalmoy. If you daven Pesach night a weekday prayer, of course you got to pray again. You missed the main show. If you Sukkot night, you got to pray again. If you say a Chol. Rabbi Yonah says, what about Rosh Hashanah night? You daven not only you made a set of Melech HaKadosh, you daven a weekday prayer. You come into Shul Rosh Hashanah night, wow, look at everyone dressed so nice. I wonder what's going on over here. Wow. And you're just like, what's going on? And you just say a regular prayer and they say, what's going on? Oh my gosh, Rosh Hashanah, I didn't realize, right? Would you have to pray again? So you don't say nothing. You don't say Tein Pachtucha. You don't say Yom Zikaron. You don't say nothing. You just a regular weekday prayer. So Rabbi Yonah would say, oh, he equivocates. He said, you know what? And he said exactly like Avli says. Maybe, it's okay. Why is it okay? Because, like we just mentioned, just like Rosh Chodesh, if you don't say Ya'aleh V'Yavo at night, it's no big deal. Because when are you establishing Rosh Chodesh? In the day. That's when the Bezdin would sanctify it. Rosh Hashanah is just like Rosh Chodesh. So not only, he says even more than Rabbi Avli, not only if you don't say Melech HaKadosh, even if you just daven a weekday prayer on Rosh Hashanah night, there's no big deal. That would have no application to Shabbos at night, or Pesach at night, or Sukkot at night. Why not? Very simple. Only Rosh Chodesh, Rosh Hashanah, is it sanctified in the day. Because when you sanctify Rosh Chodesh, which is Rosh Hashanah, in the day. Shabbos, first of all, we don't sanctify at all. Shabbos is God, right? Made it Shabbos. Also, Sukkot, Pesach, you don't sanctify, put Sukkot and Pesach. It's true. It's related to when the calendar, but it's nothing retroactive. It's like, oh, it happened in a day, and retroactively it's Pesach at night. No, only Rosh Chodesh and Rosh Hashanah do we have this, because until the day it's not sanctified, and then it's sort of like retroactively applies also to the night. So interesting enough, Rabbi Yonah echoes Rabbi Avli's thought, but the problem is Rabbi Yonah continues and says, no, this is wrong. This is wrong. And he says, why is it wrong? And he says it's wrong because Rosh Hashanah is Asr in Malacha. It's Kedushas Yontif. And like you read, like, okay, so what? You have an explanation. What does he mean? So, okay, fine, great. The bottom line is, you only know it's Rosh Hashanah in the day. It all basically was retroactively. Again, I know nowadays it's not that way, but we're looking at the way it should be, what should have been when the calendar was done by Bezdin. So just like Rosh Chodesh, you really don't know until the day, or it's only sanctified in the day, and it retroactively goes back at night. So Rosh Hashanah means the same thing. Oh, but clearly what Rabbi Yonah means like this. Rabbi Yonah means like this. He means like this. Yes, it's true. Rosh Chodesh, it's sanctified in the day. That's true. That's true. And basically, when it's night, the previous night, you don't know 100%. And even if you do know, like it's the second day of Rosh Chodesh, it doesn't make a difference. The main thing is, the main emanation, the main place where the Kedusha of Rosh Chodesh comes out from is the day. How do we see that? Because that's when the Bezdin says, Kaddish, Kaddish. Now, since Rosh Chodesh is a minor holiday, I don't know about you, but Rosh Chodesh means it's a regular day, except we got to daven a little longer, right? But there's no Issa Malacha. Maybe some women have a minig not to do Malacha, but it's a minor holiday. There, Rabbi Yonah says, if it's a minor holiday, and the main Kedusha is established in the day and retroactively goes to night, there we could say, since it's a minor holiday, we can make believe the night is like a regular weekday. We can make believe the night is not like Rosh Chodesh. Again, because any Rosh Chodesh is a minor issue. It's a minor Kedusha. But says Rabbeinu Yoina, is any right-minded person going to say, oh, the night of Rosh Hashanah, it's not really so holy. It's not really that important. Rosh Hashanah is a major league Kedusha. It's also Melacha. You can't say on a major league Kedusha, oh, it's not really so holy. On a minor league Kedusha, where, like Rosh Chodesh, where the Kedusha is a small level, then we can like hatch-patch, we can put together, well, it's a minor Kedusha, and it really emanates from the morning. Really, the morning is when the sanctification happens. Then we can say, if you don't say at night, since it's retroactive, it's okay. But Rabbeinu Yoina holds on a major Kedusha like Rosh Hashanah, which is Asr b'Melacha, even though Rosh Hashanah is like a Rosh Chodesh. But bottom line, it's a major Kedusha. On a major Kedusha, we can never say, oh, we'll make believe at night it's not so holy. We'll make believe at night it's not so holy. That we can't do. Seemingly, if this is so, Rav Avli, seemingly, is not correct. Because what are the Rabbeinu Yoina saying? Only something that's a minor Kedusha do we employ this svara, ein mekatchen ela b'yom. But Hamelech HaKadosh and the Rosh Hashanah davening, which are all have to do with a major Kedusha, then you don't say, oh, since it starts in the day, it only retroactively goes to night. Or since it's established more in the day, it's established in the day, even though it does apply tonight. But since it's retroactive, we don't really care about it so much. We can make believe like it's a Yom Chol. So this is one of the attacks, out of many attacks, that the Chayim have on Avli. Basically, in a nutshell, this din would only apply for Rosh Chodesh and not for a Rosh Hashanah davening or Hamelech HaKadosh. Now, on this I have my own personal answer.
Hamelech is shaykh to yourselves.
Ah, a genius! I tell you, you wrote this whole cheer. Amazing. I wasn't going to say it because we're running out of time. I said I want to do 40 minutes. But he wants to say it over here, then no. Rabbi Fine, everything is wonderful. Rabbi Avli did see the Rabbeinu Yoina. I mean, some Achronim say, oh, Rabbi Avli didn't know Rabbeinu Yoina. He sort of didn't know it. Or he sided like the wrong side of Rabbeinu Yoina. Right?
Only read the first half.
But he wants to say that no, Avli knew Rabbeinu Yoina. He knew that on a major Kedusha, and of course if you don't daven Rosh Hashanah at night, the Rosh Hashanah davening, for sure you have to pray again. And it's not like Yalla the other. Because the Rosh Hashanah davening has to do with the Kedusha of Yom Tov, the Issa Malacha of Yom Tov. Rav Avli was specifically talking about Hamelech HaKadosh. Hamelech HaKadosh actually does not have to do with Rosh Hashanah. How do I know that? He said all 10 days. So the addition of Hamelech HaKadosh is actuality has to do with a minor Yom Tov, a minor Kedusha. Aseret Simei Tshuva, would you say that's a major Kedusha or a minor Kedusha? Aseret Simei Tshuva, the 10 days of penance, are a minor Kedusha, no malacha, right? That's what you want to answer. That only for Aseret Simei Tshuva, for Hamelech HaKadosh, we could apply. Since bottom line is, when does Aseret Simei Tshuva start? It starts in the day, the following day. It's true, retroactively, it goes to the night. But it all comes down to the day when the Beis Din says it's Rosh Chodesh. It all boils down to that. So in the day when the Beis Din says it's Rosh Chodesh, retroactively, now it's Rosh Chodesh retroactively, it's Rosh Hashanah retroactively, it's Sesame Tshuva retroactively. So it's true. On the Rosh Hashanah part, we can't say, oh, since it's retroactively, it's mitigated. It's tenuous, it's weak, it's attenuated. You can't say that on a major league Kedusha. It's impossible, it's Asr Malacha. But you want to say for Yahweh and for Hamelech HaKadosh, which has to do with Aseret Simei Tshuva, that you could say it. Excellent, that's what I thought the answer was too. Now I'm well aware that this is not simple at all. Maybe talk to me afterwards, it's not simple at all, but excellent. I know the shir is over, but I must mention Rabbi Moshe Feinstein and the Binyan Shlomo. They have a whole different take on Rav Avli. They say you are totally misunderstanding what Rav Avli meant. He never meant what I'm trying to say now. That what? Since it's retroactive, the bedroom is Mekadosh Chodesh when in the day, and since it's retroactive, we look at it like it's retroactive, so the night Kedusha is considered a little less. Rav Avli did not mean that at all. What did he mean? He said, Rav Avli holds Rosh Hashanah at night is 1,000% Rosh Hashanah, 1,000% Kedusha, maybe a Sefer made tshuva 1,000% at night. What? Yes. Rav Avli just meant a famous Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. The Gemara in Rosh Hashanah says, Tikkur b'chodesh Shev b'kesed yom chagenu. That's talking about Rosh Hashanah. Ki chayk li Yisrael mishpat le'elokei Yaakov. The Gemara says, what is this double lashon? Chayk li Yisrael mishpat le'elokei Yaakov. So the Gemara says that God does not adjudicate, does not judge the world until the Beis Din does its judgment. Meaning, the simple reading of the Gemara would be like this. It's simple and the Chiddush way. Simple reading is, well, until Beis Din decides it's Rosh Chodesh, so we don't know it's Rosh Hashanah, so God is not going to adjudicate. Oh. But Rabbi Moshe Feinstein and Ben Shlomo, no, that's not the Pshat of the Gemara. That's simple. Of course, until the Beis Din says Rosh Hashanah, God is not going to judge unless it's Rosh Hashanah. They say it means like this. It means that the Rabbi Aaron shows deference to the Beis Din Shel Mata. And Rabbi Aaron says, I have to judge the whole world. And I know it's Rosh Hashanah. God knows it's Rosh Hashanah. And he knows he knew it's Rosh Hashanah. We all know it's going to be Rosh Hashanah. That's not the issue. But until Beis Din does its thing, until Beis Din does its protocol, God wants to show a deference, show respect to the Beis Din Shel Yisrael. So again, it's not because until Beis Din decides it's Rosh Hashanah, God is not going to adjudicate because maybe it's not Rosh Hashanah. Nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that. God knows that it's going to be Rosh Hashanah. He sees in the... Nothing to do with that. It has to do with, since Beis Din is supposed to convene on Rosh Hashanah, until Beis Din actually convenes, Hashem says, I'm waiting. I'm giving you respect. So it comes like this. Why do we say HaMelech HaMishpat? Why do we say HaMelech HaMishpat? Or why do we say HaMelech HaKadosh? Why do we say these things? Why do we say HaMelech HaKadosh? You know why? Because God judges us. But based on this, Rosh Hashanah night comes. Is it Rosh Hashanah? 1,000% Rosh Hashanah. 1,000,000% Kedusha. But when does God actually judge us? The Gemara says openly he judges us only the next day. So, Rabbi Avli says, I know it's Rosh Hashanah now. And of course you have to pray the Rosh Hashanah prayer. And it's 1,000% Rosh Hashanah now. But the bottom line is, when does God judge us? Only the next day. That's the bottom line. So, it's no big deal if you don't say HaMelech HaKadosh, if you don't say HaMelech HaKadosh at night. Because it would be nice to say it, but you don't really have to say it because the mishpat doesn't start. Like Rashi said, HaMelech HaKadosh, who should be young Mahalalu, who Mara Malchusai Lishpat Zayim. Rashi said openly. Why do you say HaMelech HaKadosh? Because that's when he acts like a king and judges the world. So based on the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, technically he does not judge until the next day. Like the Gemara says, Malabat she'im Beis Din Shel Mata nichnas l'din, elam ken kitchu Beis Din Shel Mata es hachodesh. And again, it's not because until the Beis Din Shel Mata don't make it Rosh Chodesh, we don't know it's Rosh Hashanah. God knows. It doesn't do that. It has to. If that's what it was, then retroactively God would judge already from night because he knows when and what and where. It doesn't do that. It has to do with the bottom line is until the Beis Din Shel Mata do their job, God waits. So that is the reason of Rav Avli. So we have two answers why Rav Avli would not go against Rabbeinu Yonah. Yes, if you don't daven Rosh Hashanah, the Rosh Hashanah prayer at night, you're not Yotze. But if you just miss HaMelech HaKadosh, you have either your answer that HaMelech HaKadosh is actually not related to Rosh Hashanah, it's related to a minor Kedusha, and we have the answer of Feinstein and Bin Shlomo. Bin Shlomo was a Rav of Vilna. He says the same thing. It's a technical thing. God does not judge to judgment until the day. So that's it. So it's no big deal if you miss the Melech HaKadosh. It's not a big deal. Okay, Rabbi Isai, thank you very much for listening. And hopefully next week we'll also talk a little bit about Rosh Hashanah or Shofar.